I am giving my presentation on Gagne's learning theory, not so much because it's my favorite at this point, but it is a new theory that I'm very intrigued about and has piqued my curiosity. So here we go. Robert Gagne was an American educational psychologist who pioneered the science of instruction while working with the Army Air Corps pilots in World War II. His theory of learning is key in today's instructional design practices. What is learning? According to Gagne, he states that the proof of learning is shown by a difference in a learner's performance before and after participating in a learning situation. The framework for Gagne's conditions of learning theory included conditions of learning, association learning, the 5 categories of learning outcomes, and the 9 events of instruction. There are 2 types of conditions of learning. Those are the internal and the external. The internal conditions of learning are capabilities that already exist in a learner before any new learning begins. This is also known as prior knowledge. The external are the different stimulus that exist outside the learner, such as the environment, the teacher, and the learning situation. So we need to look at learning as being different for each learner due to the difference in the point of prior learning and the external situation and learning environment. There are 4 prototypes in the association learning, which is another aspect of Gagne's framework for learning. And those 4 prototypes are classical conditioning, where the learner associates an already available response with a new stimulus or signal. Operant conditioning, a response in the learner is instrumental and leads to a subsequent reinforcing event. Verbal association, where the learner makes a verbal response to a stimuli, answering a question. And chaining, where the learner connects individual associations in sequence. There are categories of learning outcomes included in Gagne's framework of learning. Those 5 categories are intellectual skills, such as knowing or having a procedural knowledge, verbal information, being able to state ideas, cognitive strategies, being able to analyze problems and solve problems, motor skills, executing movements in a number of organized motor acts, such as playing sports or driving a car. So being able to motor plan and develop and problem solve in that way. And attitudes, the mental states that influence the choices of personal actions or how we think about what we're learning. Probably the most influential part of Gagne's theory that really affected me were the 9 instructional events. And as I was reading through these 9 events, I was thinking about how important they are and how wonderful they are in structuring our learning, and what a great asset for teachers to have these instructional events built into their lessons. So after you determine the outcome for learning, those outcomes that we previously discussed, the next step is to organize appropriate instructional events. And Gagne had 9 events of instruction. First one is to gain attention. So first of all, when we go into the classroom, we need to make sure that the student's attention is captured and that we have aroused their interest. This can be done simply by changing voice pattern or an interesting image or sound. Probably another important part of the learning, another important learning event would be to let the learner know what they're learning. So inform the learner of their objective. This helps them know what is to be expected in the class and can help to motivate their learning. Stimulate recall of prerequisite learning. So in other words, we want to somehow connect the new information with prior knowledge. This helps the learner to begin that learning process by making those connections. It can also, help them be motivated into learning something new if they already have a little bit of knowledge about. Next, you want to present the stimulus material. So this is the new content that is presented to the learner, and it should be in an organized and meaningful way of presenting. Provide learner guidance. Show the learner what appropriate actions constitute correct performance. Okay, so you want to let the learner know what is the right what you are looking for. What is the end result of the learning? And it's good to have suggestions and use examples. Elicit the performance. Now the learner is required to practice the new skill or behavior. This is not being able to independently perform, but this is a way to get make sure you know that the learner is understanding the content. Now you is the time you provide feedback so that the learner can make adjustments and improvements upon their performance or their end result. And this feedback can come from the teacher or the person guiding the lesson or their peers. Now is the time to assess the performance. Now the students need to demonstrate what they have learned independently. So this is not providing any feedback or guidance. Enhance retention and transfer. This is probably the most disliked of the learning events for the learner, that they don't like to necessarily practice what they've already learned. But it's important that you provide practice and spaced reviews to your learners. This helps retain information and helps them become even more independent with that skill. I really felt like the teachers could gain a great deal of insight from applying Gagne's 9-step model. I think it's an excellent way to give structure to the lesson plans and a holistic view to the teaching. I really learned a lot going through those nine instructional events. And as Gagne would say, organization is the hallmark of effective instructional materials. Thank you.